Hi everyone, it's Natalie and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you all some of the books that I've read recently. But before I do that, just know that down in the description below there are some resources that you can check out to help the Black Lives Matter movement. If you have the time to watch this video, you definitely have the time to at least click on some of those links and see some of the things that you can do to help with the movement and with everything that's going on right now. As for this video, the first book I'm going to be talking about is Becoming by Renata Williams. I'm going to be reading a bit the description of it on Goodreads because, as always, I'm terrible talking about poetry collections, so I'm just going to tell you the main themes that they highlight in the summary. Becoming is a beautiful debut collection of poetry centering around themes of feminism, sexuality, race, and mental health. Renata Williams' 100+ poems are short, personal, emotional tributes to the things that make us different and a celebration of all the things that make us the same. I got an e-arc of this poetry collection through NetGalley, so thank you to them for that. As for my rating, I gave this poetry collection 3 stars. Overall, although I enjoyed reading this collection, it wasn't anything that really stuck with me and that stood out to me. The main thing is that this poetry collection has pretty simplistic writing, and that's not really what I'm looking for in my poetry. I didn't think it was poorly written by any means or anything like that, but I just couldn't connect with the writing because of how simplistic and to the point it was. There were a few lines here and there that I really enjoyed, and I found myself that as I was reading, I was kind of looking for those lines where I could see real beauty in the language, and then everything else would kind of blur, like the rest of the language would kind of fade out of my concentration. So that was also a weird thing that happened to me while reading this collection. At the end of the day, if you really like poetry that's simple, that's not too elaborate, isn't trying too hard to be flashy, then I would definitely recommend picking up this collection. The next book I'm going to be talking about is The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. This is the third and final installment in the Folk of the Air trilogy. In the first book, we're following our main character Jude, who was kidnapped by fairies and grows up in the fairy lands. Because of this, she grows up wanting to be accepted and respected by the fae because humans aren't really respected by fairies because they're immortal and far more powerful than humans, and she wants to prove that she can be just as cruel and powerful as them. On Goodreads, I rated this 4 stars because I really enjoyed it, but it wasn't actually like the best thing I've ever read. From a more objective standpoint, I would give this like a 2.5. It wasn't like totally crap, like super poorly written or anything, but it wasn't the best stuff out there by any means. The biggest thing when reading this book is that I had a fun time listening to the audiobook of it. I really enjoyed the narrator of this audiobook. Actually, I read The Wicked King as an audiobook. I really liked the narrator, so I decided to wait to pick up The Queen of Nothing as an audiobook to be able to continue that experience. And overall, the writing style of Holly Black combined with the narrator just makes the story go really quickly. I find myself hooked and not wanting to stop listening because it's just so compulsively readable and so easy to get through. Unfortunately, this wasn't everything it could have been. I didn't think this was the best conclusion this trilogy could have had. And one of the things that actually I wasn't that into was the ending itself. Because of how the majority of this trilogy was, I thought the ending would be a bit more like gritty and serious, but it was a bit too happy and joyful for me. I found it strange the way that this ended. It felt a bit too good for everything that we had gone through to get to this point. At the end of the day, though, I just really like the 2 main characters of this series. Jude and Carden are just so fucking stupid and I love them. They're literally so fucking dumb. Like, both of them are so fucking dumb. The whole trilogy is basically the 2 of them being so bad at communicating with one another that they think they're both against each other when everything they want is to like support each other and fucking kick ass together. And I'm like, y'all couldn't get stupider if you tried, and I love you. Like, really, I love their dumbassery. It's just a whole new level and it's great. I do have to say though that I've seen people in the reviews say that you can't read this book and have the full experience if you don't have the bonus content of the letters that Carden sends to Jude, but I would totally disagree with that. I don't think just adding that would have made this a better reading experience. Like, it would have enhanced it partially, but it wouldn't have fixed everything that was wrong with this book, which the main thing that was wrong with this book is that it was so fast paced and things were just solving themselves so easily that you couldn't just really settle into the situation. It was just fast, 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 fast. So those letters that Carden sent to Jude really weren't gonna fix anything. You could totally read the normal published edition of this without the letters and you'll be fine. At the end of the day, I generally enjoyed this trilogy, so that's all that matters to me. I had fun with it and I'm cool with that. The next book I read was Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. This is the sequel of Six of Crows. In the first book, we're following a group of 6 criminals who go on a heist. In this heist, they're tasked to free a person from a prison in order for the drug that they have created to not go out into the world and wreak havoc on the lands. I partially buddy read this with Anna from Books and BS. I ended up going ahead of her because she got busy and she had other things to do, which is totally fine and normal, but I didn't have the patience to wait for her. So mostly I just read like the beginning of this with her. But she finally caught up to me and she finished it, so anyway, because this was a reread for me, I didn't really read this thinking about what am I gonna say in my review of it, because I have barely any thoughts to share with you. I rated this 5 stars. I don't think I mentioned that earlier, and honestly, it was just a fun time. I just love the Six of Crows duology. To me, it's still the best work Leigh Bardugo has done to date. And as always, my favorite thing is learning more about the characters. We got here a lot of backstory for Wylan, which I really appreciate. We got here to meet Jesper's dad, which is incredible. I love that man. Like seriously, from this reading experience, what I truly took out of it is that Jesper's dad is not a perfect man, but I love him anyway. Like he has a place in my heart. Plus all these characters are so young and he's like the sole parental figure they have around, and it's just wholesome. I'm sorry I can't really say anything much more coherent than that about this book, but again, I've read this story so much, I'm so familiar with it that I don't even know what I feel about it except enjoyment. I enjoy rereading it, I enjoy being with these characters, and honestly, I just want more. I want more time with these characters. The last book I'm going to be talking about is Men to Avoid in Life and Art by Nicole Tersigni. I have no idea if that's how you pronounce her name, but that's how we're going with it. I'm going to read the description of this book because it's kind of hard to explain what it is, but it's nonfiction and it's humor, and Goodreads gives this summary. Started as a Twitter thread and quickly gained widespread popularity, this book perfectly captures those relatable moments when a man explains to a woman a subject about which he knows considerably less than she does. Situations include these men in art and antiquity sharing keen insight on the female anatomy, an eloquent defense of catcalling, or offering sage advice about horseback riding to the woman who owns the horse, and many more situations. So essentially, this is kind of like a coffee table kind of book. It's a combination of old paintings with like captions, essentially. If I can find some of those Twitter examples that may or may not be in the book, I will put them here so you have a clear image and idea of what this book is. At the end of the day, I rated this 3 stars because it wasn't anything exceptional. Because of the whole construct of this book and the way that it's formatted, it's not really meant for you to read it in one sitting from cover to cover. So I think that was one of the things that was an issue for me. This is nice and fun if you just randomly pick it up and you look at one or a couple of the pages and then you put it down, and another day you pick it up and look at a couple of them more. But sitting down to read them dedicated, and it's not even for that long because it's really short, it just doesn't work. It's kind of like looking at the same meme format for an hour. Like it just gets tiring. Like you just want some more variety, you know? So although this wasn't bad, it wasn't really exceptional. If you want to pick it up, I would recommend just reading it casually, not trying super hard to get through the whole thing, because it's not really meant to work that way. At least I don't think so. Anyway, that's it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. In the comments down below, please let me know some of the books that you've read recently. Which one was your favorite? Which one was your least favorite? If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you would like to follow me on any of my social media, I will leave the links to that down in the description below. But for now, see you next time.